2020 Toyota Highlander XLE all-wheel drive is advanced safety included standard from 100.
So the Canadian Forces doesn't have the, I don't know, resources to train the new recruits they're expecting to get over the next month and a half or whatever. These people are out of their fucking minds, man.
Help me through this.
At Russell Alexander Family Lawyers, your interests are our top priority. You have better ways to spend your time and energy than to deal with forms, phone calls, and technicalities. We are here to help. Go to bookria.ca to learn more.
Picture life without restaurants. All the first date spots. And our favorite places to watch the game. The lunch spot that gets us through the day. The places the kids love to go. Everywhere we celebrate our little wins. Now picture life without restaurants. These are the moments we don't want to lose. 10,000 restaurants have already closed.
Region has not named the building in question, but Peel Public Health says is taking the urgent step now while community spread of the variant is still low. To date, there are 5 cases of the variant first found in South Africa at the condo building, and testing is set to be conducted floor by floor. Or Peel Region says residents can go to a testing center in the community. I'm Julia Relissi.
680 News Time, 10:36. With vaccine delivery set to ramp up in the coming weeks, the Ford government is wasting no time. They've released a list of who's at the top to get the shot. 680's Tijuana Turner has the details.
A memo from the Ford government to health officials indicates staff and essential workers in long-term care homes are first in line. Next are high-risk retirement and First Nation elder care homes, as well as any residents in these settings that have not received a first dose. These groups may sound familiar as they were listed as immediate priority during the first vaccine rollout. However, when delayed Pfizer and Moderna shipments led to a vaccine shortage, they were left waiting. Now, following this update from Prime Minister Trudeau on March shipments,
We can confirm we will be receiving the 4 million doses we've been committed to since last November from Pfizer by the end of that month.
the province says it's now ready to make vaccines available for the remainder of the Phase 1 population. Still no word yet on when the shots will be available for the general public, but Trudeau stands by his statement saying everyone who wants a shot will get that shot by September. I'm Tijuana Turner.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News at 10:37. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are expecting their second child.
Harry and Meghan made the announcement in typical style, accompanying the
Time today, everyone. You're listening to Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I'm Laura Bellotta from singleinthecity.ca with my co-host, Joan Kelly Walker, and our special guests, Bianca and George, who came together through matchmaking. Love is definitely in the air tonight.
So
Thanks for joining us again.
Bianca and George. Okay, so you guys met in person. There was obviously some fireworks. So after that first date,
today, the former mayor of Mississauga is as feisty as ever. In a conversation with 680's political affairs specialist John Stahl, Hurricane Hazel expressed her frustration with the Trudeau government's vaccine rollout.
I think the federal government has blown the vaccine situation. Europe is way ahead of us. UK is ahead of us. The United States is ahead of us. I was talking to a friend that's down in Arizona. He's got his vaccination. And he can vaccinate more visitors to Arizona.
You can listen to the entire chat between the longtime friends at 680news.com.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News at 10:38. Canada's Wonderland is set to become a COVID-19 vaccination site in York Region. Now, there are plans in place to convert the parking lots to a drive-through clinic. The logistics supply chief for York Region Public Health, Kathy James, tells the CBC...
Where are these mobile health units that you said you had?
According to York Region Public Health, patients will drive to another area of the parking lot after getting the shot and will wait 15 minutes before getting paperwork and being allowed to leave. The news comes with Wonderland's plans to reopen.
Being allowed to leave.
Is allowed under the pandemic restrictions. Markham Fairground has also been reported to offer space for a vaccination clinic in the region, with talks about also using Soccer City in Richard Stouffville.
Coming up, gas prices aren't changing, but find out what they are in just 30 seconds. 680 News Time, 10:39.
So, our mortgage approval is done?
Great news. The bank has approved you.
Invisible.
Non, rendre le monde indisponible.
Indisponible. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
Ben, en fait, il explique, Rosa, justement, que le monde nous est disponible. En fait, lui-même pense que le monde est disponible, qu'il a contrôlé ce monde-là par la technique. Et au contraire, Rosa dit, ben, c'est un leurre, tout ça. Le monde n'est pas disponible, il est indisponible. Par contre, on finit par se dire que tomorrow is the KPT surge in 1989, and the record low is 6. We surge in 1889. Sunset tonight is at 5:56 p.m. Sunrise tomorrow is at 7:02 a.m. at the Rocky Mountain Wilson Airport. This morning the low was 34 degrees. 4:46 time is 10:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The air quality forecast for Monday.
Work was published in Spain and was circulating in several volumes. They needed to put a halt to her writing and her publishing. So, yes, it made her more popular in terms of getting her books sold and circulated, but in her own personal life, it was the beginning of the end.
I disagree with that, I'm afraid, because after the publication of this work, she actually, some years after that, she's editing away her works. I think one of the handsome and charming, which, by the way, Laura, if you remember the
I called it nothing but dumb shit, didn't I?
21-string sitar, the guzheng.
Sitar? Let's call it a sitar? You can't listen. You just fucked it up for me.
That the wet.
How many strings is sitar supposed to have?
A hugely important role in 17th century Mexico, and on feast.
Okay, that's way too far back.
But also a lot of
country. Please
theatrical, and it seems that most of the community, Spanish and Mexican.
It's been like this all fucking week.
Conditions apply.
Another day tomorrow. Expect 1 to 3 centimeters of snow for most of the GTA by the time we get to tomorrow afternoon. And then we do have about 2 to 4 centimeters for areas from Hamilton out towards the Niagara region. Tomorrow's high -7, and it will turn windy by the time we get to Monday evening. Just ahead of the next storm system that's going to bring some steadier snow to the GTA, dropping down to -13. And then for Tuesday, -8 with more snow. The totals will be about 10 to 20 centimeters across the GTA. Tonight's overnight low -9. Right now in downtown Toronto, it's -5 with partly cloudy skies, but feels like -11. Similar conditions near Toronto Pearson Airport at -7. Feeling like -13. Still to come on 680 News, a look at your top stories in sports. 680 News time, 10:43.
When you need to know, now.
680news.com.
Are you looking for a truck? À peu près 500 dans le monde, donc il en survient quand même assez régulièrement. D'autant plus une bonne idée, je pense, d'essayer de faire une définition. On va peut-être lancer le politologue d'abord, Danick Parenteau. Qu'est-ce que c'est pour vous la définition de base d'un coup d'État?
Un coup d'État, c'est une voie d'accès au pouvoir qui est par définition illégale, c'est-à-dire qui n'est pas prévue par la Constitution du pays. Donc, si on vit dans un régime démocratique comme le nôtre, ben, c'est ça une prise de pouvoir avant les élections en quelque sorte, qui implique généralement un certain niveau de violence, bien sûr, qui peut varier énormément. Hein. Certains coups d'État vont se faire de manière relativement pacifique, alors que d'autres vont impliquer un haut degré de violence. Mais en tous les cas, c'est une manœuvre illégale d'accession au pouvoir.
OK, c'est intéressant de dire que c'est par définition toujours illégal. Il y a toujours, on va toujours contourner les règles de gouvernance puis de succession du pouvoir. OK. Mylène Deshôtels.
Well, Alpine credits. Some conditions apply. Fiscal license 12616.
Getting you where you need to go
Faster.
The most traffic in Toronto. 680 News. Toronto's news now. is 680 News.
It's -5 with partly cloudy skies in downtown Toronto. Good evening, I'm Michelle Halim. Here are the top stories this hour. A winter storm is in store for most of southern Ontario and parts of the GTHA, with powerful wind moving in for Family Day. A snowfall warning has been issued for Toronto, with up to 25 centimeters expected to fall overnight.
TRONNO.
We could see an uptick in cases because of the long weekend, even with restrictions still in effect. Health officials across the country warning a third wave could be coming. And coming up after sports, after Donald Trump's second acquittal from impeachment now secured, the former U.S. president has not been restricted from running for president again. 680 News Time, 10:45.
Takes work. Being a mentor
You are not very good at your jobs, and I'm not very good at teaching you.
takes some learning. Get into a new episode of The Good Doctor, Monday at 10 only on CTV. And stream anytime. Between shoveling driveways, carrying giant bags of salt, and pulling toboggans up the hill all day, winter can be hard on
How that related.
C'est plutôt une insurrection, je dirais même désorganisée. Les vraies tentatives de coup d'État impliquent un certain niveau d'organisation et une finalité. C'est-à-dire qu'une fois que ceux qui ont pris d'assaut le Capitole, la majorité de ces insurgés, appelons-le comme ça, probablement qu'ils ne savaient pas dans quoi ils s'embarquaient, qu'ils ne poursuivaient pas tous le même but, le même objectif. Alors que les putschistes ou ceux qui vont tenter des coups d'État, généralement, ils s'entendent sur une finalité, des délais, qui vont faire quoi après le coup d'État, une fois qu'on va s'installer au pouvoir. On n'avait pas ça, je crois pas, du moins, au Capitole.
Mais là, vous venez de faire rentrer un autre mot dans l'équation, c'est le mot putsch. Est-ce qu'il y aurait une définition précise du mot putsch par rapport à un coup d'État?
Il y a plusieurs termes qui peuvent être utilisés. Certains vont dire qu'il s'agit d'un synonyme de coup d'État. Dans la littérature en général, on réserve le mot putsch pour désigner les coups d'État menés par les militaires. Mais bon, encore là, la majorité des coups d'État impliquent une participation d'une branche militaire. C'est pas directement mené par les militaires eux-mêmes. Ce qu'on comprend bien, parce qu'ils détiennent des armes, ils sont formés à une bonne utilisation de ces armes. Donc on comprend qu'il implique toujours à peu près une dimension militaire dans tous les coups d'État à peu près.
Oui, mais dans ce sens-là, alors, est-ce qu'on pourrait dire que ce qui est arrivé en Birmanie récemment, c'est vraiment non seulement un coup d'État, mais un putsch en même temps?
Oui, on pourrait qualifier de putsch à ce cas-ci, parce que c'est vraiment le chef de l'armée qui a démis ses fonctions, le président et celle qui exerçait le rôle de premier ministre en quelque sorte, et ils ont installé un régime militaire. Là, le problème avec la Birmanie actuellement, c'est que c'est une chose que de renverser un gouvernement, c'en est une autre que de s'installer au pouvoir. Et là, ce qu'on voit, c'est la grande instabilité qui a découlé de ce coup d'État. Un pays qui passe son premier coup d'État, on s'entend, là, le Myanmar, mais là, les putschistes semblent avoir beaucoup de difficultés à s'installer au pouvoir. La grogne populaire, les manifestations de rue sont très importantes.
.ca or contact your Nissan dealer. Fuel claim excludes EV.
OK. Ben oui, alors je reviens à ce que je disais tout à l'heure. Le mot réussi en...
First to know, breaking news as soon as it happens. 680 News. With his second acquittal from impeachment now secured, former U.S. President Donald Trump has not been barred from running for office in the future.
On ABC's This Week, Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, one of 7 Republicans who voted to convict Trump, was asked if it's possible Trump can mount a successful campaign in the future.
I think it's forced lanes. The Republican Party is more than just one person.
Still, 43 Republicans voted to acquit Trump, and Cassidy has already been censured by his state's Republican Party for his vote. Though he's acquitted, Trump still faces possible civil and criminal jeopardy. There are also calls to bar him from office using the 14th Amendment. Mark Remillard, ABC News.
680 News Time, 10:49. Now with Food Bites, here's Rose Reisman with 680's food and nutrition expert.
Valentine's is always synonymous with chocolate, but all chocolate's not equal. For nutrition, you want the tastiest chocolate with the highest amount of cocoa. Milk chocolate can have as little as 10% cocoa. Real white chocolate has around 40% cocoa. Semi-sweet chocolate has around 55% cocoa, and dark around 75% cocoa. The darker the chocolate, the less the sugar and dairy. It also has more fiber and antioxidants and minerals, including zinc, magnesium, and iron. Dark chocolate can lower blood pressure, raise a good cholesterol HDL, lower the bad cholesterol LDL, and lower fasting glucose levels, reducing the risk of diabetes type 2. Dark chocolate increases blood flow to the brain and improves cognitive function in elderly people. So try using dark chocolate for your Valentine's dessert. The key is always moderation. With Food Bites, I'm Rose Reisman.
Coming up, we've got Colette Desjardins in the 680 Traffic Center and Carl Lamb with your extended weather forecast. 680 News Time, 10:50.
Weather.
It's all about the numbers. And if we're off by more than 3 degrees,
You can win our cash jackpot.
a number that continues to grow.
As both a young mother and an Aboriginal woman competing for Australia at the Olympic Games. This programme refers to some of the racism Nova experienced during her career. It's the 1st of August 1996, and Australia's famed national women's hockey team, known as the Hockey Roos, are facing off with South Korea. The score is 1-1 at half-time, and an Olympic gold medal hangs in the balance.
And I just remember all of us sitting in that room at halftime, and we're all sort of just looking at each other, and our halftime talk was, well, girls, what do you want, gold or silver? And it was as simple as that.
This is Nova Paris.
I'm a proud descendant of the Iwaja people and also the Yarra people of the East and West Kimberleys. And I'm the first Aboriginal Olympic gold medalist.
What was your childhood like? What was it like growing up in the Northern Territory?
Being born here in Darwin, there's a very high population of Aboriginal people. You know, I look at my mother, who was 8 years old when she was removed from her mother. She was a member of the Stolen Generation.
The Stolen Generation refers to the estimated 100,000 children of Aboriginal descent who were taken from their parents as part of an official policy and placed in institutions, orphanages, missions, or white foster families. It's one of the starkest examples of Australia's long history of racist treatment of Aboriginal people.
When she was a young kid growing up on the mission, she didn't have freedom and she was locked up in dormitories. I guess as a kid growing up here in Darwin, I had access to sports, and we did all sports. And so if you were to have one word that described my childhood, it'd be freedom. From the time I could walk, I had a hockey stick in my hand. I had made my first Australian team, making my sort of inroads into the Australian senior team, where when I was playing for the Northern Territory, one of the girls who was playing for one of the states and went to shake her hand, and she turned around and she said, "Oh, I'm not shaking that black hand." So that was the first time I experienced racial discrimination. You know, all I wanted to do was just to play sports, and to have been treated that way was something that really cut me to the core. And because I started to cut through into the Australian ranks, it was almost like you had a bit of a target on your back. That's how I was attacked, unfortunately, was because of the colour of my skin.
As Nova was fighting for her place at the top of Australian hockey, there was a growing wave of protest for Aboriginal rights. In 1988, the country was celebrating the 200th anniversary of the arrival of the ships that would found the colonies that became Australia.
Australia, the main story this morning is that the whole country is on a 200th birthday binge.
Many Aborigines see Australia Day as marking the 200th anniversary of the time they started to lose their land to white.
Tens of thousands of Aboriginal people and their supporters descended on Sydney to march for greater land rights.
For Aboriginal people, this very day is a day of mourning, and in fact 1988 is a year.
In a notoriously competitive nation, sport was often a lightning rod. When Aboriginal athletes excelled, they all too often found themselves on the end of brutal criticism in the press and racist abuse from the stands. Very few Aboriginal athletes had competed on the biggest international stage at the Olympics, and none had brought home an Olympic gold. To change that, Nova Paris would have to make history, but when she gave birth to her first child at the age of 19, even some of those closest to her thought her dream of reaching the athletic elite was over.
Jessica was born a week after my 19th birthday. A lot of people, in particular my stepfather, who said, "Oh, you know, you've stuffed your sporting career up by having a child at such a young age." And I think a lot of people would have folded at their knees and, threw the towel in, but it just gave me more determination to prove people wrong. And, I dreamt of winning Olympic gold medals.
Were you conscious that if you wanted to achieve that dream, that you'd be doing something that no one from your heritage had done before in winning an Olympic gold?
Absolutely, and thrown around in people's vocabulary is, there you go, Nova. She's a typical Aboriginal girl who's had a teenage pregnancy. She's not going to go on and achieve much. And who was I to believe that I could be this Olympic athlete?
Nova fought for her place and broke into the top level of Australian women's hockey. In 1993, the national team appointed Rick Charlesworth as coach. Armed with a squad of some of the best players in the world, including Nova, Charlesworth set about turning the hockey roos into an unstoppable force.
We trained, would run 60 to 70 kilometres a week. What Rick Charlesworth turned us into, we were machines.
The hockey roos were ruthless and came into the 1996 Games on a long winning streak.
The long build-up to these Olympics is now almost over. Atlanta is just hours away from staging the greatest sporting show on earth.
The tournament began and the hockey roos kept winning, beating the best in the world one by one. There was one exception, South Korea, who fought into a 3-3 draw.
Drawing against Korea and only just winning 1-0 against a couple of the countries, it was tough. I ran the equivalent of 2.5 marathons over those 13 days, so it was hard yakka.
The group stages came to an end and Australia topped the standings. It would be another showdown with South Korea in the gold medal match.
I just kept thinking this is going to be a hard game, and they were just a fast running team and were just relentless and just kept going and going and going.
Australia opened the scoring. 15 minutes later, the South Koreans equalised. At the halfway point, they were on level terms and in the fight for their lives as their coach urged them on for one.
We didn't have to speak words. We could just look at each other in the eyes, and we knew that we needed each other. We knew that we were going to be the ones to beat.
The Australians took Canada.
So it came from our left, Trini Powell getting it in the circle, and she just bypassed one of the fullbacks and reverse sticked it into the top of the net. So it was her goal that ultimately secured it for us.
Take me back to that moment when the final whistle goes and that dream is realised and you've won that Olympic gold.
Yeah, it was just jubilation.
A lot of the factories that produced these chips shut down and then they ramped up again very slowly. But for car manufacturers in particular, when they shut down their dealers and their showrooms, demand dipped because unlike buying a phone or a PS5 or something, you don't really buy a car online. And as demand for cars has slowly ramped up again, those factories were building chips for other companies. They did not exclusively build these chips for cars. And unless you're a Toyota or a Honda, which have diversified their supply chains, you're stuck waiting for these factories to build your chips again when they're done with some other clients. And that's basically what has happened with the car manufacturers. With everybody else, though, there's just not enough supply for the amount of demand for products that none of these companies anticipated would be as popular as they are because we're all at home playing video games.
That's Daniel Bader with Android Central, and at the Business Center, I'm Richard Southern.
Be the first to know. Breaking news as soon as it happens. 680 News.
How do you know when someone's having spice face from
Qashqai models? Visit Nissan.ca
Canadian
or contact your
Press
Nissan dealer.
talk about the Canadian Forces.
$314 monthly. Selling price is $26,378. Conditions apply.
Divorce can bring out the worst in human behavior. If you're worried about losing your children, selecting the right lawyer will have a major effect on your case and your life. Brian Ludmer understands your situation. With extensive experience in both family law and business law, Brian Ludmer, author of The High Conflict Custody Battle, offers a better perspective on solutions so that your children don't suffer in the process. And that makes him the ideal choice. Brian Ludmer. Visit ludmerlaw.com. That's ludmerlaw.com.
Beyond the hashtags and headlines, Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
As a business owner, you need a one-stop solution to all your IT needs.
You need the WiseTech Group.
Because WiseTech takes a proactive approach to providing reliable, managed IT services.
Talk to WiseTech today about security and backup.
WiseTech offers migrating to cloud solutions.
And unparalleled service from their help desk support.
Listen right here Sunday mornings at 11 as WiseTech Group presents the IT Support Show.
Or email anytime, help@itsupportshow.com.
We believe in a greater Toronto. This is CFMJ Global News Radio 640 Toronto, a Corus Entertainment Company. You're listening to Global News Radio 640 Toronto. This is Global News at 11 o'clock.
From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jerry Smith. Ontario has unveiled plans to expand its COVID-19 vaccination rollout to more target groups. It comes ahead of an expected boost in nationwide shipments of the Pfizer vaccine. Staff in long-term care homes, top priority healthcare workers, and Indigenous adults in remote communities are among those first in line for a shot. The province says seniors, 80 or older, adults receiving chronic home care, and all Indigenous adults will be next. Health authorities have said more than 335,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine will be delivered in the days to come. And this comes after a weeks-long slowdown that forced the provinces to curtail immunization efforts. Vaccines are due to land as provinces hope to protect their vulnerable populations from more contagious variants, which threaten to reverse positive trends. Pastor who was charged last week with violating Alberta's health rules could face more fines. The RCMP says James Coates was once again not complying with COVID-19 restrictions when they attended the Sunday morning service at Grace Life Church near Edmonton. No one from the church could be reached for comment, but last week it posted a 1,600-word statement saying it does not believe the spread of the virus is a critical public health threat. More than 100 supporters gathered in the snow at the 30th Annual Women's Memorial March in Vancouver. The rally is held each year to remember women who've gone missing or been murdered in the downtown east side. It began in 1992 to honor a woman slain on Powell Street in the neighborhood. Pauline Johnson's sister and niece, who were both killed more than 3 decades ago, she says police need to do more to investigate these cases.
You know, you see the police officers or chief of police coming over here saying, oh, coming here and telling us there's going to be change, or we're going to do this or that, or we're going to have special investigators for our missing women. There's nothing like that. Absolutely nothing.
Organizers say an estimated 50 women have died since last March under violent circumstances or from COVID-19. Police in New York City say a person of interest has been taken into custody in connection with 4 separate subway stabbings, 2 of them deadly. 4 incidents took place in less than 24 hours between Friday and Saturday. Police say the victims all appear to be homeless. ABC's Kristen Thorne has the latest from New York City.
We're told that police have taken a person of interest into custody here at the 34th Precinct. Police sources tell us that the person who they took into custody was recovered with blood on him and a knife.
NYPD has vowed to deploy an additional 500 officers to patrol the subway system. This is the Canadian Press. In sports, Denny Hamlin was the winner of Stage 1 at the Daytona 500. The marquee NASCAR event was delayed due to heavy rain and lightning. Prior to the delay, a multi-car crash occurred 14 laps into the race. Bianca Andreescu playing in the Phillip Island Trophy event in Melbourne tonight. 2019 U.S. Open champion up against American Madison Brangle in the round of 32. Andreescu was upset in the second round of the Australian Open. Carl Anthony Towns scored 20 points and 11 rebounds in a 116-112 Minnesota Timberwolves victory over the Raptors. Kyle Lowry led all players in points with 24. Brian Russ scored 2 goals and added an assist. 6-3 Penguins win over Washington. Max Pacioretty got the only goal in the only other game, a 1-0 Vegas Golden Knights victory over Colorado. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jerry Smith. Well, happy Valentine's Day to all of you out there, whether you're alone or with a lover. It's a day to celebrate love. Well, life and
further
love
mutations of the virus.
in this pandemic.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson says more than 15 million people have now received at least one coronavirus vaccine dose in Britain. Johnson made a video address on Sunday in which he called the achievement a significant milestone, but warned there's still a long way to go. Britain's managed to vaccinate 22% of its population in a period of 2 months since kicking off the vaccination campaign in December. The country ranks behind only Israel, which has inoculated 73% of its population, followed by the Seychelles at 53% and the UAE at 51%. Health officials in Guinea have confirmed that 3 people have died and 5 have tested positive for Ebola in a town in the country's south. It's the first case since Guinea was one of 3 West African nations to fight the world's deadliest Ebola outbreak 5 years ago. The new cases announced Sunday are in the same region where the previous outbreak started. The origin of the infection is still unknown. Former Australian Open champion Naomi Osaka beat 2-time Grand Slam champion Garbine Muguruza in Sunday's 4th-round match. Osaka saved 2 match points to overcome Muguruza 4-6, 6-4, 7-5 to reach the quarterfinals down under for the second time in the quarterfinals will be Xie Sui.
Ibadan. Witnesses say youths from the Hausa and Yoruba communities clashed repeatedly in a market in Ibadan on Friday and Saturday. And that's the latest BBC News.
Welcome to the Climate Question from the BBC World Service. From the science to the politics, we're your guide to the burning issue of our time. I'm Greg Jackson.
I'm Neil Rizal. These are people that want to do science without doing math, stating things as being obvious without actually testing
cases in Ontario, with 303 of those being the B117 variant, the one first discovered in the United Kingdom. Nearly 49,000 tests were completed, more than 10,000 vaccines administered yesterday, and over 1,200 people have now recovered.
680 News Time, 11:06. Starting Tuesday, the City of Toronto will be opening some recreation facilities for people with disabilities to access physical therapy. 680's Tijuana Turner reports.
Participants will have to show a medical certificate confirming they have a disability. Weight rooms, studios, stretch areas, and indoor walking tracks will be made available to residents who meet the criteria. Center locations include Lawrence, Eastern, and Etobicoke Olympian Community Centers. All 10 locations were selected because of their proximity to transit, equipment, and other features. Visits are limited to 90 minutes, and an appointment must be made in advance by calling the gym directly. Toronto Public Health was consulted on the decision, and per their recommendation, each facility will continue contact tracing as well as regular enhanced cleaning. Residents will also be screened before entering the facility.
Just every random person's going to. It doesn't matter. Your name's not Richard, and you don't have a phone number. I argued for 4 fucking minutes with these people.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News at 11:08.
That's how you
President
got
Joe Biden set to speak at a virtual meeting with the world's major economies on Friday to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and global vaccination distribution. According to the White House, Biden is expected to speak about the need for a global response to the pandemic and to recommit
In Manitoba, he is Dr. Jason Kinderchuk, and he joins me on the line. Good evening, Dr. Kinderchuk.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much. Same to you. Hope you had a good one.
Doctor gonna
tell us. Nothing like emerging infectious diseases make Valentine's Day just seem that much better, right?
That much sexier, I tell you. Oh, yeah. I think virus is the new...
The diplomacy that characterized so much of his tenure as vice president.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. She's probably one of the best-known politicians in the country. Hazel McCallion is celebrating her 100th birthday today, serving Mississauga as mayor from 1978 to 2014. She first ran for the position at the age of 57, and Hurricane Hazel sat down with 680's John Stahl, sharing her thoughts on how Doug Ford is doing as premier.
I think the lockdown, the controls of the GTA, in the beginning were not well done because they locked down Peel and Toronto, not realizing that in order to have a successful lockdown, you lock down the entire GTA because people live in Mississauga and work in Hamilton. People live in Mississauga, work in Guelph.
McCallion is also critical of the federal government, accusing it of blowing the COVID-19 vaccine rollout plan. You can hear the entire conversation between Hazel and John at 680news.com.
Gas prices, are they going up or are they going down? We'll tell you how they're changing in just 30 seconds. 680 News Time, 11:09.
Launch their firearms subject to some conditions. One of those conditions will be that they can't legally use them anywhere, not even on shooting ranges. Now, gun control advocates say that doesn't really go far enough. They want the buyback program to be mandatory. And on the other side, gun advocates will argue that the program is just wrong-headed and unfairly penalizes responsible gun owners, not criminals. Sandy.
All right, CTV's Glenn McGregor in Ottawa. Glenn, thank you as always. And U.S. President Joe Biden called for tougher gun laws today on the third anniversary of a mass shooting that left 17 students and staff dead at a high school in Parkland, Florida. And from Florida tonight, Donald Trump, emboldened after the not guilty verdict at his second Senate impeachment trial, is pointing to a comeback and political payback. CTV's Richard Madden explains.
One day after his second acquittal, former President Donald Trump hit the links in Florida, where allies say he's plotting a return and revenge.
Oh, he's ready to move on and rebuild the Republican Party. Trump plus.
And nobody knows where the money goes. So I was told back then that there is this effort of disclosure. And shortly after, you hear about the Navy sighting of that UFO that you normally didn't hear. They wouldn't say things about UFO sightings before that. Now they're starting to share these things. And then you have these patents coming out. So just like this fellow says, sure enough, these patents come out. And in particular, well, one of them is dealing with a UFO, basically creating a UFO. It's an anti-gravity disc-shaped UFO. Another is a triangular version that would behave much like what the Navy was shooting in their gun camera pictures.
The Tic Tac video, right? The Tic Tac UFO.
Right. And then they have another patent on basically a repeller beam, which you could think of it like the Star Trek phaser beam, where they can put it in repeller mode to push things.
The tractor beam?
Instead of tractor beam, it would be a repulsion beam. So their work was being done in secret until they published this patent. I think these technologies are at least 30 years old, because what I was told back in '92, the being based on Brown's work and Tesla's work, and in fact, that's what these are based on. So back then, they were working on this, and just they got around now to patent them and disclose them. So they're not going to tell you the most recent stuff, apparently. This stuff is old hat to them.
This is 30 years old, this technology, so who knows what they have now. So,
yeah,
so let me then ask you.
But that's what I believe based on my understanding.
So is this
now it's a little bit warmer than that -9 overnight low?
The United States, the U.S. Navy or the Air Force, they have UFO propulsion technology. They have that now, and that perhaps most of, all of the flying discs and so forth that people are seeing are U.S. military? Are they admitting that now with this disclosure?
Yes. In fact, we have a Space Force already out there. It's just been a black project. And Gary McKinnon tapped into that when he hacked the computer, or the Air Force computer.
Only on CTV. Stream anytime.
Since the dawn. But they weren't Earth vessels. And there were crew exchanges and so on that he found. So you get the picture of Star Trek size vessels, maybe with crews of 200 or more. And then there's the book by Tompkins, who talks about he was designing these, and they were being built. He in lectures disclosed how a place, I guess, in Utah, in the hills of Utah, they would build these things and boost them into the air. And I've lectured on this a year and a half ago. In fact, I guess last year, I gave a lecture about how they were getting those up in the air. I mean, here they build a spacecraft in an Earth hangar, underground, let's say hangar that has doors. You open these doors, the thing might be half a kilometer long. And how do they get it into space? Well, they use these propulsion beams, which I describe in my book, Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion. And I sort of have disclosed about Project Skyvault, which was told to me by a fellow head inside information. And I sort of, based on the few bits and pieces that he gave me, I could reverse engineer it. Basically uses microwave beams to boost, create pressure on things, and you could mount these on anything and boost it into the air. So you can picture these crafts being boosted up into space, and once they're up there, they can weld them together and produce huge ships many kilometers long.
So when people, for example, Paul, were reporting these huge craft, let's say in Stevensville, Texas, several years ago, more than a decade ago, I guess, and people discussed how they, or revealed how they saw these things looked like the size of a box store, floating silently in the air, blocking out the sky. Is that what we're talking about?
What would that be, would you say?
Well, I don't know. They're talking about craft the size of a box store, like a Walmart, floating up there above them.
Yes, very easily. Could be that big.
I mean, did you ever, I mean, I know you've been tracking this, you've known about this, but to see this kind of disclosure, this kind of admission, did you ever think that you would live to see this day? That they're saying, yes, we have this stuff?
Well, like I didn't know that they would until I'd heard they were going to have this disclosure, and slowly you see they're talking about it. So this is very good.
The space-time modification weapon.
Now that's where I would contest. You can't understand these with space-time. Like I said, Einstein's theories, they don't use them. They're not workable.
Yeah. So I'd start liking Mondays?
Probably.
But everybody hates Mondays, so I'd suddenly be an outcast, living on the fringes of society, a bizarre Monday-loving weirdo.
But you'd get $1,000 every day for life.
Then TGIM, baby, and every other day, too.
The Daily Grand Lotto draws every Monday and Thursday. Buy tickets in store and online at olg.ca. Are you looking for a trusted and experienced online high school where you can earn credits or upgrade your marks? Learn at home with Ontario Virtual School, Ontario's leading online learning provider. With over 10 years of experience, OVS has over 120 interactive and engaging courses to choose from, including STEM, French immersion, and more. Sign up today, set your own schedule, and get 24-hour access to their certified teachers. To learn more and see why over 20,000 students have chosen to learn with OVS, visit ontariovirtualschool.ca.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News at 11:18. Sorrow reverberated across the United States today as Americans joined a Florida community in remembering the 17 people killed in the Parkland.
A modification weapon.
Well, okay, if you want to say a UFO is a weapon, I suppose you could look at it that way. They're engineering, it's electrogravitics, basically. You understand what electrogravitics is, don't you?
Of course. We covered that in, right. In Space Cadet School. Yeah, that's it. Space Cadet.
Principles. Einstein's theory is based on the idea that all matter attracts, whether it's positively charged or negatively charged, and that's incorrect. Protons are gravitationally attractive. Electrons are gravitationally repulsive, and that's a new idea that a lot of people haven't grasped yet. And that's what Townsend Brown's work showed, where he charged up a capacitor to high voltage, and it would move towards the positive electrode as if it was being pulled by the positive charges and repelled by the negative. So once you realize that electrons are very special, that they're gravitationally repulsive, that's the heart of it, is how you deal with the electrons. And the goal is to build up as high a electrical negative charge on your craft as possible. And the more electrical charge you build up that's negative, the more weight it loses. And it can actually make the craft invisible, because light will bend right around it. It's like lens shaped.
Right.
And they pretty much tell you the ABCs of how to do it if you know the science behind it. They don't explain it in ether terms. They don't use the word ether. They use language that physicists might use to get the patent published, I guess. But it's very confusing would be very confusing to a physicist to read it. Excuse me. Which is why a lot of people probably don't believe that it's for real. They say, come on, you're pulling our leg and you're just doing this to justify all the hundreds of thousands of dollars you spent. But that's baloney. They didn't spend just hundreds of thousands. They put millions of it. This is a 30-year-old program that they put.
Right. I was gonna say that seems like a mere pittance, a few $100,000. Oh, listen, we're gonna take a quick time out, Paul, and we'll come back and pick up on this. I want to talk about this statement here that these revolutionary changes in power and propulsion. We're talking about possibility of quantum communications, energy production, weaponry, and most stunning of all, the idea that they could engineer the very fabric of reality. We'll pick up on that.
Nicely, road conditions in great shape. Now the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardner Expressway continues to move well. It's lightly traveled on those two routes, but it looks good into and out of the downtown core. And again, the QEW in great shape between Burlington and the Mississauga area. Serious injuries need serious results. When it comes to fighting for your rights, there's nothing tougher than a diamond. Call Diamond & Diamond for a free consultation, 1-800-567-HURT. Your next report at 11:31. Right now, let's get the forecast. Here's Carl Lamb.
-9 will be the overnight low, and we do have the snow developing during the overnight. It will taper off during the late morning, and we will have about 1 to 3 centimeters on the ground here in the GTA, 2 to 4 centimeters for areas from Hamilton out towards St. Catharines. And then we do have a brief break tomorrow with a high of -7. And then the snow does return tomorrow evening along with gusty winds as we drop down to -13 for an overnight low. And then for Tuesday, -8 will be the high, -17 is the low. And we do have totals with this snow about 10 to 20 centimeters across the GTA. Tonight's overnight low, -9.
Downtown Toronto, right now, partly cloudy. That snow hasn't started yet, but it's probably going to be starting pretty soon. -6, feeling like -12. Over at Pearson International Airport, -7, feeling like -13, and partly cloudy as well. Remember, 680 News is the only radio station with a weather guarantee. Today's jackpot stands at $2,400. And coming up at the bottom of the hour, well, it looks like you're going to be able to make a snow family for Family Day, as there's a snowfall warning across the GTHA. 680 News Time, 11:23.
Since 1967, Green Park Group has been one of Canada's most trusted builders. Green Park's legacy of consistency, quality, and service has not changed.
Canada's leading eye care chain. You heard?
So we don't know, and certainly there's some data that came out of Israel this past week that showed that people that were vaccinated, so this had the two vaccines or the vaccinations for Pfizer, actually had reduced viral loads by day 12 following the first vaccination. And that gives us some indication that maybe there's a reduction in transmission. but we don't know, right? It's not, there's, some correlation there, but no direct causation. So I think we're still in a period of
touchdown on the surface. The U.S. mission will look for evidence of past or present life and touchdown in an area called Jezero Crater, which billions of years ago was a lake. The rover will also carry a tiny helicopter under its belly, which will go on several test flights.
This will be the first time.
Will the helicopter have a tank, and inside the tank will be a car with a robot and a grenade launcher?
680's Jeffrey Holman tells us Lowry's multi-million-dollar Toronto mansion has hit the market.
Probably not what Raptors fans want to hear, but are we going to get this much longer? Lowry for three. Bang! Yeah, a house popped up on the market in the Bayview and 401 area, listed at $5.3 million. 6 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, and all indications are this is Kyle Lowry's house. The pictures of the front look exactly like the front of his house when ESPN reporter Adrian Wojnarowski went to visit a few years ago, and the owner of the house is only listed as KL7 Incorporated. So Raps fans, read into this what you like, but is the greatest Raptor of all time preparing for a trade, or just capitalizing on a red-hot housing?
KL7 Incorporated.
For this RRSP season.
I agree with you. Well, thank you for all of your amazing work and your contribution to this program. As always, I really appreciate it, Dr. Kinderchuk.
Thanks, Marie.
You're welcome. Happy Valentine's Day. Coming up next, will we ever travel again?
No.
Order real estate.
Not Paea's way. He likes to take credit for Tesla's work. These are waves that are they're DC pulses, so to speak. They're always they're discharges, always same polarity, but they create waves. They're like shocks that go out. Very sharp rise time and gradual fall off time. So triangular. Think of a triangular time form to it. Think of it as explosive discharges of electrical energy. Some people call them Coulomb waves. They're other people call them scalar waves or longitudinal waves. There's no magnetic component to them, and they travel faster than the speed of light, actually, and they're generating these from the inside layer of the craft to the outside and pulsing with these. And what this does is polarizes, as they say here in the patent, they're polarizing.
One of the things that connect Bitcoin and Tesla and solar stocks and ESG investing is millennials and Gen Z.
If you talk about anything real that exists
the
anymore,
official sleep partner of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Exclusions may apply. See Casper.ca/promo for details and end date. Hansel and Gretel, a duo of siblings sojourn northern part of Turtle Island, release fragments of bread to peruse as
This Minecraft world, with its muddy rivers, grasslands, and boreal forests, is a digital depiction of the Anishinaabe territory, now known as Southern Manitoba, hundreds of years ago. Tested by Winnipeg students, this educational and immersive game will be ready for its world debut Monday.
My favorite part is just being able to run around and be guided through what life was like for the Anishinaabe people.
Students use the sun and stars to navigate, canoes to travel, and gamers work together to hunt buffalo. 14 months in the making, it is the creative collaboration of Microsoft Canada and Winnipeg's Louis Riel School Division and its Indigenous Council, giving both children and educators a historic perspective of life and culture pre-contact.
Calling it the interruption, and this is the first time I've heard that word used, and that really put it into perspective for me.
Our traditional knowledge keepers and elders who helped guide the creative process in real life also guide gamers, like Grandmother Chickadee.
Our histories in the land and language and the songs and the ceremonies. And I felt
you know, it was important that they had pretty accurate information from our experiences.
Students learn the 7 teachings, the foundations of Anishinaabe culture, and they build communities based on cooperation, reciprocity, and respect.
It's very exciting for me as an Indigenous person and an educator to see this opportunity for students to understand and, you know, begin the conversation about culture and our shared responsibilities to each other.
A fun way to learn, a cross-cultural understanding, a game that both broadens perspectives and minds. Jill McIshon, CTV News, Winnipeg.
It's important.
That's our newscast for this Sunday. Thank you for sharing.
They're running stuff audio in the background.
Comedy Tuesday, February 16th on City TV or stream live and free at citytv.com.
Taking a look at some quick regional conditions. Aurora, overcast and -8. Mississauga, mostly cloudy and -8. And Stouffville, mostly cloudy and, you guessed it, -8. Downtown Toronto, -6 and partly cloudy. Pearson International Airport, -7, also partly cloudy. 680 news time, 11:30.
Toronto's number one breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good evening. It's Sunday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day. I'm Michelle Bouillon.
And I'm James.
I have a lot of difficulty finding my way around town centres or places I don't know, or places I do know, large buildings. This week's Crowd Science deals with our inner compass, or lack of it, as we explore our sense of direction. Why do some folks seem like born navigators and others get lost?
Restricting everyone to their homes in a northern Manitoba community. People in the Cross Lake First Nation are now only allowed to leave home to get essential supplies, access health services, or go to work at essential businesses. Manitoba is reporting that provincial officials, along with the chief and council of the Cross Lake First Nation, are seeing a trend of concerning COVID-19 case numbers. Scientists say it's still too early to predict the future of COVID-19, but many doubt it will ever go away entirely. One possibility is that the disease continues to persist for a long time, but in a much milder form, like a common cold. Dr. T. Jacob John was at the helm of India's efforts to tackle polio and HIV/AIDS. He predicts that the virus will someday join the many other infectious diseases that humanity has learned to live with. The UK government says that it reached its goal of giving at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot to at least 15 million of the most vulnerable people in the country this month. About 22% of the UK population have now received their first shot. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson plans to unveil his roadmap for easing restrictions on February 22nd. Infection rates, hospitalizations, and deaths have fallen sharply there since the country's third national lockdown started on January 4th. And an Egyptian antiques official says archaeologists have unearthed what could be the world's oldest known beer factory. The factory was found at an ancient burial site located in the desert west of the Nile River.
Because beer is good.
Equipment was made domestically, including all core equipment, suggesting mass production capability. Xing Ji, chief designer of the Hualong-1 reactor, said that Hualong-1's core components have been granted complete, independent intellectual property rights, including the reactor's pressure vessel, vapor generator, voltage stabilizer, and main pipes. The Fuqing reactor has a designed lifespan of 60 years. There are 177 reactor cores functioning for 18 months until the next refueling. Each unit has a 1.16 million kilowatt generating capacity for about 10 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year, meeting the annual demand of a medium-level developed country with a population of 1 million. It's estimated that it can save 3.12 million tons of standard coal cutting back 8.16 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. The Hualong 1 reactor adopts both active and passive safety measures to prevent and contain potential accidents. It also has a double-layer shell which can withstand an earthquake of 9.0 magnitude and even an air crash. Construction of the Fujian reactor began in May 2015. Last September, the reactor's fuel loading was completed, and in November, it was successfully connected to China's power grid. Despite its controversies, nuclear power is still a very important energy source for many countries, and an option for clean energy as long as its safety is ensured. And as the designers of Hualong 1 have said, with new technologies and safety measures, nuclear power could become a regularly used source of reliable energy.
This is the same guy that said hydroponics would be lighter than regular gardens because you get rid of all the heavy dirt.
Workers began laying tracks along China's first high-speed railway controlled by private capital in East China's Zhejiang province. The Huangzhou Shaoxing Taizhou Railway, 226.9 kilometers long and designed for a maximum speed of 350 kilometers per hour, is one of the country's first 8 pilot high-speed railway projects funded by public-private partnership, with the private sector having a holding status. The investment totals 44.9 billion yuan, about $7 billion, with private capital led by Fosun Group holding 51% of the shares. As an intra-provincial route connecting Hangzhou, Shaoxing and Taizhou, the railway is expected to be completed in 2021 and will operate for 30 years before transferring it to Zhejiang Provincial Government or the government-designated organization. The new rail line, an important project to help boost the regional integrated development of the Yangtze River Delta, is expected to halve the travel time between Hangzhou and Taizhou to about 1 hour. You're listening to Special English. Ford is partnering with Google to develop onboard apps and services for its vehicles, but the United States car maker said that its vehicles in China will continue to feature those from local tech companies, including Baidu. The deal between the two firms shows that Google will help Ford to reinvent its connected vehicle experience and accelerate its transformation using its expertise in data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. As part of the 6-year deal, millions of Ford and Lincoln vehicles at all price points will be powered by Android, with Google apps and services built in, starting from 2023. However, Ford China said vehicles for the Chinese market will be an exception. It said they will continue to feature infotainment systems co-developed with local Chinese tech companies, including Baidu. Ford China said in a statement that its relationship with Baidu will not change. Ford is committed to cooperation with leading Chinese companies and will explore win-win opportunities so as to offer the best smart products and services for Chinese consumers. Ford sold 602,627 vehicles in China last year, up 6.1% from 2019. This marked the carmaker's first annual sales growth in the world's largest car market since 2017, despite the lingering COVID-19 pandemic. This is Special English. A batch of China-donated COVID-19 vaccines has been officially handed over to Pakistan on February the 1st at Nur Khan Air Base, near the country's capital, Islamabad, making Pakistan the first country to receive the Chinese government-donated COVID-19 vaccine. Addressing the handover ceremony at the airbase, Pakistani Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi expressed his gratitude to the people and the government of China for helping Pakistan in the hour of need and making Pakistan the first country in the world to receive the COVID-19 vaccine donated by the Chinese government. On the occasion, Chinese ambassador to Pakistan, Nong Rong, said that sending the vaccines is a new manifestation to the Iron Brotherhood between the two countries, adding that China has honored its commitment to making Chinese COVID-19 vaccines global public goods. The latest government data shows that Pakistan has so far confirmed over 546,000 cases and lost 11,683 lives to the disease since the COVID-19 outbreak in the country. You're listening to Special English. China's National Center Against Telecom and Internet Fraud has opened its official accounts on 5 major Chinese social media platforms. The platforms include popular social networking services, WeChat and Weibo, as well as short video platforms, Douyin and Kuaishou. The center will regularly publish micro-dramas, short presentations, and mini-documentaries on fraud investigation on these platforms to enhance public awareness of fraudulent practices. The upcoming videos will focus on major types of telecom and internet fraud, involving loan procurement and imposters posing as police officers or customer service.
Hazel McCallion wrapped up a day of birthday festivities with a 90-minute tribute hosted by Mayor Bonnie Crombie and showing all the highlights of her remarkable political career. It's not easy to capture all of the achievements.
Snow, the totals will be about 10 to 20 centimeters across the GTA. Tonight's overnight low -9.
Right now in downtown Toronto, it's -5 with partly cloudy skies, but it feels like -11. Similar conditions near Toronto Pearson Airport at -7, feeling like -13. Archaeologists believe they have unearthed what could be the world's oldest known beer factory.
Jesus, you white people and your fucking alcohol.
Along with written consent from their guardians. According to the circular, once the request has been approved, students should hand in their mobile phones to relevant school authorities upon arrival. The phones will be kept together and should by no means be allowed into classrooms. Further measures will be put in place by schools to better meet students' needs in reaching their parents over the phone while on campus. You're listening to Special English.
He had good Christian values. We don't know how he could die.
Aged 66, went viral on the internet recently after a video showed her working as a DJ, managing the music in a bar in Changsha, in central China's Hunan province. The video received more than 2.9 million views and over 40,000 likes. Netizens were impressed by her unrestrained and fashionable lifestyle, as she broke the stereotype of Chinese women in their 60s. Dong was never a bar customer. She walked into one for the first time in July, still recovering from grief over the death of her husband early last year. The fiery, energetic atmosphere cheered her up. Over the next 6 months, she learned how to be a DJ. Dong said while indulging herself in the music and successfully learning to follow the rhythm, she felt a sense of joy and achievement. Adding, she also became confident about doing something new and challenging. She retired in 2005 from her day job at a factory in Changsha and focused on her second job at night, cooking stinky tofu on the street. She expanded the business of making the traditional snack and now has 3 stores. As a DJ, she combines rock music with local nursery rhyme, folk songs, and flower drum operas.
Dr.
Unlike
Dean
most
Elterman, he's a urologist at the University of Toronto, and I invited him to come onto the program tonight to talk about men's stream issues, especially as they age. Good evening, Dr. Elterman.
Hi, Maureen. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much.
That's all it is.
That's baked, raising it prior to fermenting the juice and then distilling it for tequila. In Mexico, tequilas must range from 35 to 55% alcohol, but you won't find all those alcohol varieties here in Canada or the US. Usually just the 40% variety. And remember, there are just 2 types of tequila, the 100% blue agave tequila and the mixtos tequila. The mixtos must use at least 51% blue agave. The rest can be made up of a blended grain spirit. And finally, there are 4 categories of tequila: Blanco, Reposado, Añejo, and Cristalino. More about that next time.
A spirited moment has been brought to you by Proximo Spirits, purveyors of Jose Cuervo tequila. With over 225 years of craftsmanship and tradition in every bottle, why not pick up a bottle of Jose Cuervo Silver? Now $2 off at the
At a time when Canadians are in desperate need of support, before you accept any severance offer,
it also goes off that channel, and the result is an obstruction of flow, and men feel a weaker stream. They feel that they don't empty their bladders very well. They often have to stand a really long time for it to start, and once it starts, sort of stops and starts and stops and starts. And then it happens when it's minus 42. So all of these symptoms are consistent with an enlarged prostate.
And what should a man?
Enlarged prostate, so it's non-fatal, and if you live long enough, you will develop prostate cancer. Wow. So what's the fucking point again? You live 9 years longer not getting chemotherapy. Why? Because it was developed based on mustard gas.
Walensky said on CBS's Face the Nation.
Now is the time to not let up our guard. Now is the time to double down.
She says if people get complacent with these new, more contagious variants from the UK and South Africa spreading,
we could be in a much more difficult spot.
Mark Remillard, ABC News.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is out with its list of nominees for 2021's inductees. 680's Joey Keeney has more.
Yeah.
Nope. Well, if you hadn't tried to play the music over the background, maybe.
Maker Adina Pintilli, Idiko Enyadi of Hungary, Italian documentary maker Gianfranco Rossi, and Bosnian director Jasmila Spanic will round out the panel. This is Special English. Former FC Barcelona president Josep Maria Bartomeu has denied leaking any details of Lionel Messi's mega contract, as revealed by Spanish newspaper El Mundo. Both the club and Messi have pledged to pursue legal action against El Mundo and anyone involved in the leak. Earlier, El Mundo published the full details of the Argentinian star footballer's 4-year contract,
Allegedly.
which was signed in 2017
Goodness
to
denied.
continue Messi's stay at Barca
When I got
until
my
June the
first dose,
30th.
people can get a headache,
The
feel
contract.
unwell, have a fever, aches. Sometimes those symptoms are actually worse after the second dose, but usually they last 1 to 3 days and then they resolve.
This week, Dr. Dubé also addressed concerns about how protective the COVID-19 vaccines are and revisited questions about the nature of the virus itself. For the full chat, you can go to our website, 680news.com/COVID-answers. Dilshad Berman, 680 News. Coming up, traffic and weather together. 680 News Time, 11:50. It's just common sense. A flexi line by Capital Direct allows you to manage your funds more effectively and gives you... Je pense que c'est ce qu'on avait fait le jour de la Saint-Valentin.
And walked around the property. A temporary court order has stopped the demolition of the 4 heritage buildings. The province will be launching a public consultation for the site, with both sides saying they support a plan to build affordable housing. The province says the site has not been used for years and needs to be torn down for environmental reasons.
It needs to be torn down so we can bury all
to
these
suggest that
asbestos.
heritage buildings are standing in the way of progress and development. We can do both. Preserve these beautiful stately
Hey, what happened
heritage
to Street
buildings
City?
and repurpose them for the 21st century with modern amenities, with community spaces, with deeply affordable housing.
The case whether to continue with demolition at the site is set to be heard in front of a 3-judge panel on February 26th. Canadian Olympian Andre DeGrasse is known for his speed on the track, but he's also making his mark as a children's author. The sprinter has released a new book which features illustrations.
If you reach your lip, it's like these little
Je veux dire, c'était pas, on dirait de la plasticine, mais on parlait souvent de ça pour les tartares de bœuf et tout ça, parce que c'était souvent formé
En
dans des,
galette.
dans des emportements.
Dundas Street, just east of Yonge, between Victoria and Dalhousie. It is closed. It's all because of a 2-alarm fire that we announced about 20 minutes ago. So again, Dundas shut down both ways between Victoria and Dalhousie. That's east of Yonge Street. When you donate to Walmart's Fight Hunger Spark Change campaign, it's on now. Walmart will match customer donations to Food Banks Canada up to $820,000. Keep Help Canadian Families Fed at Walmart. Your next traffic report is coming up at 12:01 with Camille Wilson. And right now, let's get the forecast. There's a storm on the way. Here's Carl M.
-9 is going to be the overnight low, and we do have some of that snow developing during the overnight. It continues into the first part of our family day, where we will have 1 to 3 centimeters of accumulation across the GTA. By the time we get to about noon tomorrow, 2 to 4 centimeters for areas in the Niagara region and out towards Hamilton.
The span of 6.
Hamilton.
There are 177 reactor cores functioning for 18 months until the next refueling. Each unit has a 1.16 million kilowatts generating capacity for about 10 billion kilowatt hours of electricity per year, meeting the annual demand of a medium-level developed country with a population of 1 million. It's estimated that it can save 3.12 million tons of standard coal, cutting back 8.16 million tons of carbon dioxide every year. The Hualong 1 reactor adopts both active and passive safety measures to prevent and contain potential accidents. It also has a double-layer shell, which can withstand an earthquake of 9.0 magnitude and even an air crash. Construction of the Fuqing reactor began in May 2015. Last September, the reactor's fuel loading was completed, and in November, it was successfully connected to China's power grid. Despite its controversies, nuclear power is still a very important energy source for many countries, as an option for clean energy as long as its safety is ensured. And as the designers of Hualong 1 have said, with new technologies and safety measures, nuclear power could become a regularly used source of reliable energy.
Double-layered oil tankers the law in our waters, except they won't explain why they charge 10 times the tariffs on barrels than they do on tankers.
Join us every day to learn English at a slower pace.
You're still laughing, which is a good sign.
You've got a phone internet cable bill. We can help with that. Daily chances to win. Enter your bill at CFM.com and get ready to market.
गीत भी आपने कभी सुना होगा, इसलिए चलिए वही बता देता हूँ फिल्म का नाम पुष्पांजलि. शाम ढले जमुना
come true with a new trailer for Zack Snyder's Justice League.
आजा राधे आजा तुझे शाम पुकारे, शाम ढले जमुना किनारे किनारे, आजा राधे आजा तुझे शाम पुकारे. कभी रुके कभी चले राधा चोरी चोरी, किया कहे नहीं गोरी. शाम ढले जमुना किनारे किनारे, आजा राधे आजा तुझे शाम पुकारे.
Contact your local dealer to learn about our commitment to cleanliness and the great offers available to you.
Cleanliness, that word clean again, because white people love those words. Pure white cleanliness.
And when you book a windshield replacement with us online, you'll get a
you can't buy a car on the internet except for this company and that company the last 26 years and all that.
Install high-quality glass with cutting-edge technology, and we'll fully sanitize your car.
Christ, man. 2 minutes straight of commercials. Over and fucking over. Who's paying for those? No one's listening. You hear 8 commercials in a row and 30 seconds of news.
11:56. Now the 680 News Weekend Business Report.
Remember,
Chris McCusker. Unprecedented growth and adoption of e-commerce. 2 big moves in 2020 as companies were forced to adjust and pivot under ever-changing pandemic restrictions. Now, Square Canada helps sellers run their business with secure credit card processing and point-of-sale solutions. Carissa Mara is a sales leader.
When March hit last year, we had to sort of take a step back and pause and reflect on what our roadmaps look like. There was no intention on our side to overinvest in our e-com side of the business because we have all these other amazing tools we wanted to offer businesses, but we had to stop and reflect as well. And that's when we started to expand our online e-com offering.
Okay, like what?
We did things like on-demand delivery and click and collect so that businesses could manage their takeout, they could manage the delivery right from the business. We did some other things like a secure checkout link where businesses like hair salons could just post a checkout link to one product on their social media and then have their customers just purchase that item right from their their social account.
So what changes are you expecting this
So,
year?
1998, thank you. You've taken a step back in the last 8 years. 8 years, and you've accomplished nothing.
Imagine making a change for yourself. There has never been a better time to start your own licensed home daycare with WeWalk.
Jesus.
The complications with his paperwork kept him away for more than 6 months. They Zoom or FaceTime together, but the time difference between Brenna's home in Boston and Japan didn't help.
We would watch the same show at the same time on Netflix, let's say, or, maybe have a meal together. I'd be eating breakfast or he'd be eating dinner. I pretty much spent Christmas alone and New Year's alone waiting for him.
Koja finally made it back mid-January.
Her birthday, my birthday, and all the events we couldn't celebrate. So on Valentine's Day, we need to celebrate something.
जी हाँ, बढ़ाइए हाथ और छाव लीजिए 1970 के एक और बड़े ही खूबसूरत छावों के गीत की बारी।
Called Spotlight series, including both new and existing.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
There's double barrel action for you this week. Tonight, Gunsmoke. Saturday night, Gunsmoke again. At the end of tonight's show, I'll give you the details. Gunsmoke, brought to you by Chesterfield.
Live from Toronto, Canada, Earth.
The following program is a recording of a live broadcast transmitted 7 a.m. Beijing time. Examining